Okay, so the bad news is that the Swytch kit is coming off. The good news is it's going on another bike. The weather's been great here for February, and I went out riding on this with my wife. We went to Fremington Quay, which is, I don't know, about 4 or 5 miles from here, on a cycle. She was on her electric bike. I cycled out without using any electric assistance. I had it switched on so it counts the miles, but on the way back it was really windy in the wrong direction, and it was quite cold, and both of us just went electric and put it up to max and cruised home. And it's just nice to have that option, really. You know, nobody likes pedalling against the wind unless you're doing it solely for fitness. But we were doing it for, you know, we went for a coffee and a cake and met a friend, and it was a lovely day out. But to get back, you know, it was about, I don't know, it was about 5 o'clock, 4:30 when we left. So the sun was going down, and it just was cold, and it was so nice to have the boost. And I was messing about with the throttle control, and it was great. And it really works very, very well on this bike. So single speed bike, very, very basic, reasonably light for an electric bike, and the kit works perfectly on it. And I've given it some rough treatment. I see some people have had some issues with losing connection over rough ground. I've been over some rough ground, and a lot of rough ground, a lot of gravel and a lot of stones and things like that, and it hasn't suffered, it hasn't missed a beat. So really, really good on that. I did try, I reversed the forks, thinking I would do a bit of a video with me cycling backwards, because on a BMX I can roll back. Well, I used to roll back for ages, but turns out on 26-inch wheels I'm rubbish at rolling back. So I'll put a little bit in here just to show you, but yeah, it wasn't very good. So the next bike this is going on is a BMX. It might be just throttle control, and probably going to use brake sensors, because the brake sensor is going to come off with the forks. Obviously you might be wondering how I'm going to put this on a BMX. I'm going to try putting these 26-inch forks on a 20-inch BMX. I'd like a 20-inch wheel, because I've also got a folding bike and I'd like to do a few things. If Swytch would like to send me one to try out, I'd be happy to try it out and send it back to them. I'll pay the postage. I just want to try it on some other bike. Anyway, so let's start stripping this off. I don't know if there's been any other videos of taking the kit off. This might be the first. So because I use a large amount of cable ties, I'm obviously going to have to take off some of the cable ties to be able to do this. I could move it with the kit, couldn't I? I could be more lazy. Yeah, tell you what, let's be more lazy and try and take the kit off with that at the same time. And there goes the strap. Let's see what the strap looks like. You see there's a bit of stretch in there, but nothing too bad. So I cut this rubber down, but I've kept some of the rubber as well, so for a narrow bit. And I've also got loads of bits of rubber from bike lights and things like that, so I'll easily be able to sort that. See how easy these are to unplug. Being careful not to bend them in any way, just giving them a little tease. That's right, the brake one can stay on. So that was the pedal sensor I've just done. The power one can stay on. The brake one I think can stay on. Okay, so that's out. That's going to be... I've got to get that over there, unless I take the rear brake. Yeah, I suppose I could take the rear brake cable out. Okay, wouldn't have thought you'd have had to take the rear brake cable off, but it was wrapped around, so let's pop that one back in. So I've got minimal to do on this bike when I come back to it. So this will all come off with the forks. So that's my idea, is to put these forks and obviously it'll have a disc brake. I'm trying to work it sort of minimal between them, because and also with the pedal sensor, I've noticed that on some of the bikes that I'm going to use it on, I might have to do some cutting. I've got 2 pedal sensors, because if you've seen from my earlier videos, the first one broke, and so I've got a spare, so it's not too bad that I've got to cut it, but you know, it's all extra. So I think these will come off fairly easily. As it's a BMX, I'll probably take off that mud guard, because I'm only going to be riding it in sunny weather. There you go, so that comes off nicely. So let's take the forks off. So these are threadless forks. Older BMXs used to have a threaded headset. My folding bike's got a threaded headset, so I need to use different forks for that. And also, I won't be using any disc-based disc brakes after this. It'll all be either U brakes or V brakes or caliper brakes on all the rest of my bikes, because I've got a 1987 rally road bike, which is massive, super tall bike, and works really well. Right, so I've got an Allen key for that part. So this should, obviously there's going to be a reasonable amount of weight here. I should be able to, yeah, that's coming out. So here we have, it's just not too heavy, my Onone chromoly BMX forks, not chromoly BMX forks, mountain bike forks, which have got a lovely height on them for mountain bikes. So if you're replacing suspension forks, these are great for that. And the Swytch kit is coming off with it. I suppose I need to take the pedal sense. Yeah, I'll take the pedal, because I'm not going to put it back onto this bike for a bit, because I'm going to put it on plenty of other bikes. So I did notice actually on the pedal sensor, whoop. So this is, I've been using the broken one. So this is the one where when I pulled it apart, the lugs snapped. But it works fine and it hasn't come off at all. Now you can see that I don't clean my bike, and already there are some rust on there, but it hadn't affected the performance at all, so it wasn't dropping out at all. But it would be a good idea to just go over that and clean that and get rid of any of the surface rust that's on there, because obviously that's going to impede the signal. But I'm probably going to put, well, if I end up putting this one, I might put this one on the BMX, because it's got a one-piece crank, so that'll be interesting. There you go, and that's come off the frame, the cleanest part on my bike. So there's the pedal sensor. As you can see, it's pretty dirty, but it was working and doing a fine job. Let's get another bike. So this is my Powerlite Toxic, which is from 1999, I think it is. And this is a USA-made chromoly steel BMX. It was Powerlite were bought by GT at the time, so these were very similar to the higher end freestyle GT BMXs at the time. And it's got some GT forks in the front. So those are coming off, and let's see how we get on. Now the nice thing about threadless forks is that as long as the steerer tube is long enough, you can just build it up with spacers. And I think I've probably got, I don't know where they are in my garage, but I think I've got a load of spacers. So it looks like the mountain bike forks have got, oh, it's not, I think they're a bit taller, so I'm going to have to put some of these spacers in between, but that's fine. Right, so handlebars should come off now. Nearly whacked myself in the face. Right, so if I hang them on my crank, so it might not, it's moving. Right, so my Skyway. So this is a UK Skyway. I got this really cheap from a local guy, but most Skyways are made in the US, and I think the UK ones, Tough Wheel 2s, were around about 1986, 1987, and it still works. It still is perfect. And this is only going to be temporary, so I'm not spending loads of time re-greasing and doing and messing about like that. This is just a temporary. I just want to try it, see what it looks like, see how it rides, and see how we get on. So let's get rid of this. And for the first time, let's see what the forks look like when presented to the bike. So bearings. Yeah, the steer at the bottom looks pretty much the same. There's a bit of grease still in there. Not very clean, but it will do. So I've got some spacers, hopefully it will be enough. Good job I keep these. Right, so how are we looking now? Right, that's too tall because it needs to be slightly under for it to fit. So I'm going to need another 10 mil at least. Yeah, I need another. I need another at least 5mm, I think. Right, so I'm going to have to ferret around the garage and see if I can find something. Looks ridiculous. I'm not recommending anybody do this. It could definitely put strain on the frame. I haven't really had a look at the proportions of the bike yet, but I'm guessing it's going to look a bit ridiculous. I think my feet are going to possibly touch the... Yeah, I didn't think of that. I'm not going to get pedal strike, but my feet are going to be quite close, so I'm going to have to pedal with my toes. Well, I can use... It'll have throttle control anyway, so... The finer points of that I'll be able to do, but let's just tighten it up so when I'm moving it around, nothing's going to fall off. So, hopefully this isn't too tall. No, it's pretty tall though. It's a long way away because of the bars, but it's going to reach. So the switch kit's going to go on there. So there's the brake. So hopefully there's enough length in here just to feed it through. Oh, it's close. Yeah, so that's going to bring... I'll show you that. That cable's very tight up to here. So I'm going to move the levers in a bit, and I'm going to have the throttle control. If I move that in, put the throttle control in between, and oh, of course I can't use the retainer, can I? Because there's no stem on here. Didn't think of that. I think if I put it on the bottom part, it's possibly the stem's going to be too big. Oh no! Oh, so it fits in between a BMX stem, and that's going to be enough clearance from the wheel. Oh, okay, so that's going to be better. And actually, thickness-wise, that's going to be probably similar to what these are cut out on. So I think I'm probably going to get away with that. Yeah, to be fair, on the crossbar it was going to be quite high on this bike, so it probably was going to affect the ride maybe. And this, it's going to still need some more rubber, but that fits in really tight. So I've got some more rubber from a bike light, which I think this will probably be enough really, half of this. So pop that in, and you can see my other video on how to fit this. I did another one where I think it was in my throttle control video where I refitted this because I did it wrong because I didn't double it over, but it looks like it will double over fine in this one. Yeah, that's going to go on. That's going to look quite neat actually. I won't click it down just yet. Let's try and give you a bit of the angle of that. So if I push it down a bit and then tighten. Yep, that's good. Right, so that brake cable can probably just tuck in behind. Instead of throttle control, let's just see what the pedal sensor looks like it would fit. So this is my new pedal sensor, and I can clip that on. It's just whether it will hold it in place on a one-piece crank like this. Of course, it is a lot wider than the spindle of a three-piece crank, so it probably would have to be cut down a bit. But I can probably get away with. See, I know other people have had issues with them. I don't think mine is particularly fussy. What do I think? Do I think lugs? I'm going to go with lugs. I'm going to use the good one, but I'm not going to bother to chop anything off because I reckon I can get it in there. It's not quite. The lugs aren't quite in, but at least the lugs are gonna hold it in place. So you see, I've got a bit of a gap, but I'm not. Well, let's see what the gap means. So I've got a bit of a gap there because I haven't cut down any of these teeth because I've got more projects to use this on with thinner cranks. But I wanted to try it on this. I think I am going to use the pedal sensor rather than the throttle because it means I have to do less with the bars. And at the end of the day, you're not supposed to be using the throttle anyway. So let's make this a legal electric BMX. Not illegal, illegal. that when you're on private land could do 20 miles an hour, 20, 22, something like that. Right, so let's move this brake lever in a little bit because I'm a little bit concerned that it's giving a bit too much tension. That's all right. Right, I can move this box without the bike falling now. Oh. Safe to say it's a little bit front heavy. Yeah, the pedal does get quite close to the wheel, but I'd say this is a temporary thing. Pedal sensor. Now I've got a bit of sticky still left on there, but it's probably not very much. Yeah, the down tube in it is going to be fine for that. I need some very thin cable ties because I've already used the Swytch ones. I suppose I could put something on the outside. I know people have been talking about Sugru and various different things on the outside of to hold that in place, because that will quite happily go against the bolt. And I saw some people have put the pedal sensor actually on the crank. I think that would work in this build, but as it's only a temporary build, I'm not going to bother. But so you can use the lock nut that goes on the outside against the plastic, and I guess put a washer in between it, as long as you've got enough thread to be able to do that, which you probably would have. I think we're there, apart from tidying up some cable ties. I'll be able to ride this to work on the next, I think, 3 or 4 days of sunshine, and then if it rains, I don't really take this bike out in the rain, so I'll be back to non-electric bike for a bit. Right, those can stay on. The bag on. It's a little bit tight. It's a lot tight. How did I manage to do this just now? There you go. And we definitely have an ET style thing going on here, don't we? Okay, so before I turn the pedals, do you want to take a guess on whether it's going to work or not? Oh yeah. I probably need to do something else with this pedal sensor. I'm thinking maybe if I just put a thick cable tie around to see if that will keep it in shape. So just there, like that, just to stop it from moving outwards maybe a bit, rather than use any Sugru or polymorph or anything like that. Let's try. Okay, so I made some changes in the end. I did add the throttle control. You can have the throttle control on the left hand side. I had it on the right hand side of my mountain bike. It's just push up. So as long as you rotate it back enough, you can see that the throttle control is comfortable there. What else did I do? Oh, I changed the angle because the angle was too tight when it doubled over because the stem was too thick. So you can see that it's only single thickness on the strap. Pedal assist has got quite a bit of clearance, and if I pedal backwards, you can see that it's not straight, but actually it kicks in absolutely fine. There's quite a bit of distance. I've been going over really rough ground. You can see I've used the cable ties. Okay, so I'm being pulled up the hill with throttle control now. The geometry is very weird and not that pleasant really, but it was an experiment to see what it was like. It's alright going along the flat, but certainly if you go uphill, the bike feels really short because the angle is all wrong, because obviously the front is elevated so much, and so the bars are much closer to my knees than they'd normally be, so that's not great. But also because my seat is quite far back, because it's a layback seat post, but that's the only way you can get sort of a decent riding position. It means that if you're going uphill and the ground is loose, you get a lot of wheel spin. Now I didn't get any wheel spin on my mountain bike because my weight was much more forward, and obviously this is all to do with just having the wrong size wheel and forks on the front of the bike. But now I have to go up this hill. I've got to stand up, but my angle is, I'm kind of leaning over the bars to give it weight, and my knees are whacking on the bars, so yeah, it's not great. Come on Swytch, give me a 20-inch wheel just to try. When you're cruising on the flat with the throttle control, it's quite pleasant and it's quite good fun. The front wheel actually lifts up quite easily, so if I go up this curve, thinking probably my Scott, which is a, what's that, an 8-speed Shimano Nexus hub, which is a really nice commuter bike, and I think that'll be interesting to see what it's like on that bike and how it fits. And I know I've got to do something with the crank because there's not enough space for the pedal sensor, but we'll see about that when we get to it. But that won't be for a little bit, so this kit's probably not going to be changed for at least a week or so. So I'm going to go back and forth to work on it, but I'm sure I'll be relying on the throttle a lot more than the pedal assist because, yeah, the geometry's all wrong. And this bike as a BMX is a great bike. I really enjoy riding it. I've had it for years. Right, let's go. It's a bit of a hill here. Let's go for pedal assist 9 and see how fast we can go up it. Oh, you can hear it already. Every time it bounces, it kind of loses traction. Whoop. It's certainly an experience. Let's see what it's like over some rough ground. So this is throttle control only now. Obviously, well, I'm going uphill and it's proper bumpy and quite thickish grass. Mud soft. Goes over it right though. Oh. There you go, and now we're on smooth ground, throttle control only. So you'll see, as I say, the back tyre is pretty flat. I would certainly be going a lot faster. Right, where was I going to go? Let's try up this hill. So even on the rough ground, the pedal assist isn't cutting out. And if I show you, so that's how much clearance I've got, and you can see the pedal assist is not straight. You can see I've held it on with this cable tie. Interesting fact, the throttle occasionally sticks, but I noticed when I was putting it on the bars and I was putting it around the curve that it was sticking when I was doing that, so I think it's just because I've not got it on a flat piece of the bar. You can see it's on a more curved bit.